African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, November 1st. This year is going by extremely quickly. It's Monday, November 1st, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been an extremely busy day. And, you know, we had a great class. We had a great show, I should say, on Sunday. We had an excellent show here Sunday. So to our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. And you can watch that show there. All right. So on today's show, at the end of our Sunday show, we had a jam-packed Sunday show, and I had an update dealing with Ahmaud Arbery in the trial of the three white men accused of killing him. And I was not able to get to that segment on yesterday's show. So we're going to deal with that today. We have some updates in the jury selection in the trial and what's going on with the jury selection. We've entered into week 3. We've entered into week number 3 of jury selection, number 1. Number 2, there was an article from the Associated Press that I saw, and Yahoo News picked this article up. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. So we see not only did this slaying take place in Georgia, which has the largest Confederate monument out of anywhere in the country. It's called Stone Mountain. But on top of that, we see that the citizens arrest law that the three white men are claiming gave them authority to chase down Ahmaud. That citizens arrest law dates back to 1863 during the Civil War, when Georgia was part of the Confederacy. We've talked about that here on this show and broken that down. Okay, and it was a law used to target runaway slaves running away from Georgia who were running behind Union lines. Okay, that law goes back to 1863. Well, there's a piece from the Associated Press that deals with potential jurors, and we're going to pull this up here. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery slaying. So we're going to talk about that on today's show. That's one of the updates. And then they were at 55 potential jurors, but one potential juror was struck because of a conflict. So we'll give you an update on what's going on there. And then also one of the defense attorneys, very strange, one of the defense attorneys brought up an objection today saying that there's a noticeable absence of white males in the prospective jury pool. There's one of the defense attorneys complained to the judge today that there is a noticeable absence of white males and regular white males over 40 years old who are not college educated. This was one of the complaints by one of the defense attorneys. Very interesting. This is in Glenn County, Georgia. And we know the city of Brunswick is about 16,000 people, a very small town. So we have that update. And then also, so we'll talk about what's going on with the jury selection. They're hoping that they would have completed jury selection by the middle of this week and they can start with opening arguments. So we'll see. Now, we're going to stay in the South for our second story. You've heard me talk about the Mississippi State Constitution of 1890 and the Mississippi State Convention of 1890. And this state convention, at the state convention, they rewrote the Mississippi State Constitution and they instituted poll taxes and literacy tests to suppress the African American vote. You've heard me talk about this numerous times. Those of you that are enrolled in my Saturday online course, From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, you know, we talk about this a lot because this was known as the Mississippi Plan. And the white county judge who presided over the Mississippi State Convention, his name was Solomon Saladin Calhoun. And he said, we are here to exclude the Negro. We are here to exclude the Negro. Now, this was at a time when Mississippi, the majority of the population in Mississippi were African Americans. And we were electing African Americans into elected office, into the state legislature. And African Americans were the majority of the population in Mississippi. Then the minority population institutes poll taxes and literacy tests. Well, November 1st, 1890 was the date that Mississippi adopted the new constitution that oppressed the African American vote. So today is the anniversary of this hijacking of the Mississippi State Constitution by white supremacists to target African Americans. November 1st, 1890. We're going to talk about that because history is repeating itself. We're going to talk about that today. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his or her actions because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, Kemet, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Sign up for our email newsletter there as well. All right, I want to jump into, we're coming up on a break here very quickly because we have some new break times. So I want to monitor that. So I want to jump into this first topic here. We were going to talk about this on Sunday's show, but we ran out of time, did not get a chance to do that. So potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. If we look at this piece here from Yahoo News, they picked it up from the Associated Press. People questioned during jury selection about the killing of Ahmaud Arbery have said he was racially profiled, by the white men who chased and shot him, singled out, quote unquote, due to his color, and targeted for being a black person who was thought to have been stealing things, end quote, and targeted for being a black person who was thought to have been stealing things. Now, the statements came in response to blunt questions about race from prosecutors and defense attorneys who are trying to seat an impartial jury. Okay, now they have to have 64 prospective jurors. And once they get 64 prospective jurors, then those prospective jurors will go through, they have to answer another questionnaire. We don't know the questions right now in that questionnaire. And this is to streamline them down to from 64 down to 16, which is 12 jurors and 4 alternate jurors. Okay, so the statements came in response to blunt questions about race from prosecutors and defense attorneys who are trying to seat an impartial jury for the trial over Ahmaud Arbery's death in the coastal Georgia city of Brunswick, the coastal Georgia city of Brunswick. Now, the inquiries elicited some pointed response. Now, one woman, now they're just referring to the jurors by juror number. We know that 1,000 jurors have been summoned to come to court. Okay. 1,000 jurors have been sent jury duty notification notices. The whole case. So, one woman, juror number, who's been identified only as juror number 199. And for most of these jurors that I'm seeing, we're not given their race either, for the most part. Quote, the whole case is about racism, end quote, one woman identified only as potential juror number 199. The whole case is about racism, she said, on Thursday, which was Thursday, October 28th. She said the three men charged with murder, quote, hunted him down and killed him like an animal, end quote. Now, another prospective juror, identified as juror number 72, told the attorneys, quote, if it was a white guy running through the neighborhood, I don't think he would have been targeted as a suspect. If he was a white guy running through the neighborhood, I don't think he would have been targeted as a suspect. Now, we're going to continue this on the other side of the break. We're coming up here on the break. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. You listen to the African History Network show, 9:10 a.m. Superstation. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Who still needs to register for the 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968? Okay, stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Okay, we'll post a link here. Stand by. Back for break in 1 minute. Stand by.
And the African History Network show, we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. We have it all on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. 910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right, I want to go back to the topic we were discussing right before the break. So we're doing an update on the trial of the three white men who killed Ahmaud Arbery, involved in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. We know one, Travis McMichael, admitted that he shot Ahmaud. So there's this piece from the Associated Press, picked up by Yahoo News. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. So we know we've entered into week number 3 of jury selection. As the end of today is day 10 of the trial. At the end of the day, we have 54 people who are prospective jurors. Once they get to 64, they will then go to a second phase where they answer another questionnaire to get the 64 down to 16 jurors, which includes 4 alternate jurors. Now, another prospective juror, number 72, told the attorneys, quote, "If I was a white guy running through the neighborhood, I don't think, if it was a white guy running through the neighborhood, I don't think he would have been targeted as a suspect," end quote. Now, that's what I've said here numerous times here on the show. And that's the sentiment of a lot of African Americans. Now, the comments could signal trouble for defense attorneys who have often argued for the dismissal of potential jurors who see Ahmaud Arbery as a victim. Okay. Defense attorneys are often arguing for the dismissal of potential jurors who see Ahmaud Arbery as a victim of racial prejudice. Now, several of them, including juror number 199 that we talked about and juror number 72, have been deemed qualified. Several of them, including juror 199 and juror 72, have been deemed qualified by Superior Court Judge Timothy Walmsley to remain in the pool from which a final jury will be chosen. Now, because this is such a small community, a tight-knit community, because the video of Ahmaud being killed went viral and went around the world, they're having some people who are being allowed to stay in the jury pool, the prospective jury pool, under normal circumstances where it wasn't such a high-profile case, the video didn't go viral, etc. They would have been struck from the jury pool already. Quote, "It could be devastating for the defense," said Michael Chiavone, a Savannah, Georgia criminal defense attorney who is not involved in the case. He said, quote, "I would be skeptical that they could be fair after they told me their opinion. I would be skeptical that they could be fair after they told me their opinion." Now, under Georgia law, potential jurors are not automatically disqualified for showing up with preconceived opinions about a case as long as they pledge to set those opinions aside and remain fair and impartial while hearing the trial evidence. Okay, as long as they pledge to remain fair and impartial while hearing the trial evidence. Now, Superior Court Judge Walmsley has repeatedly cited that standard. Now, Greg McMichael and his adult son, Travis McMichael, armed themselves and pursued Ahmaud Arbery in a pickup truck after spotting the 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery running in their neighborhood on February 23rd, 2020. A neighbor, William Roddy Bryan, joined the chase and recorded cell phone video of Travis McMichael shooting Ahmaud Arbery 3 times with a shotgun. Now, defense attorneys say the McMichaels and Bryan had reason to suspect Ahmaud Arbery was committing crimes in the neighborhood after he was recorded by security cameras inside a home under construction. Now, the owner of the home under construction turned over security camera footage to the authorities, and he said nothing was missing from inside the home. Security camera footage showed numerous people wandering onto the site looking around, many of them white. To our knowledge, nobody else was shot down. Nobody else was chased down. Okay. And there's no evidence that Ahmaud committed crime, stole anything. He wasn't running with 2x4s on his back. Now, they say Travis McMichael fired his shotgun in self-defense when Ahmaud Arbery attacked him with his fist, but you got 3 white men chasing you for a number of minutes trying to hunt you down, and they have guns. I would have fought back too. You got 3 white men chasing you down with guns. I would have fought back too. No one was arrested or charged in the killing for more than 2 months until the video leaked online and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case from local police. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case from local police. One could on the good old boys and good old girls. Now, potential juror number 571, and we're going to go to clip 1 here in just a second from the Black News Channel, Shakita. Juror number 571 said, if I'm honest, if it was completely reversed, and if the 3 men were black and the victim were white, they would be arrested immediately. They're true. That's true as well. Can't argue with that one. Okay. Juror number 571 said, if I'm honest, if it was completely reversed and the 3 men were black and the victim were white, they would be arrested immediately. If the 3 men were black with wearing police uniforms and they chased somebody white and shot them down, they'd be at least interrogated. They'd be questioned. If they had on police uniforms, okay, it'd be a different story. Now, this is what potential juror number 571 told attorneys during questioning last Wednesday, okay, which was October 27th. Now, the judge also found this person, is a female, don't know the race. The judge also found her qualified to remain in the jury pool. At least she's honest. That's all I can say. At least she's honest. Now, if defense attorneys conclude that the jury pool is shaping up to be biased against them, now pay close attention to this. If the defense attorneys conclude that the jury pool is shaping up to be biased against them, they could ask the judge to halt jury selection and move the trial. The defense could halt jury selection and ask the judge to move the trial. Now, just because they ask the judge for a change of venue to move the trial doesn't mean it's going to be granted. Otherwise, before a final jury is seated, lawyers on both sides will have a limited number of strikes that let them cut potential jurors they may feel are unfavorable. I think the prosecution has 12 potential strikes and the defense has 24 because it's 8 per defendant. 3 defendants, 8 per defendant, 24. And I think the prosecution has 12 strikes that they can use. I want to go to this clip here. This is from the Black News Channel. Now, this is from Friday, October 29th, 2021. This is Dre Clark giving an update on what's taking place dealing with jury selection. Let's go to clip number 1, Shakita.
Where week 2 of jury selection is wrapping up in the trial of the 3 white men accused of murdering Ahmaud Arbery. It's been a slow process, and now there are new concerns about hundreds of potential jurors who are waiting to be questioned. BNC's Dre Clark is in Brunswick with the very latest. Today marks day 9 of jury selection here at the Glenn County Courthouse in Brunswick, Georgia. The process is moving much slower than anticipated. In fact, one of the defense attorneys told the judge he's concerned that prospective jurors may revolt because they're getting tired of sitting around and waiting to be questioned inside the courtroom. Judge Timothy Walmsley said he understands their frustration and he's trying to get through the process as quickly as he can. But he said says the court must be very deliberate about the jury selection process because he wants to make sure the right jurors are chosen so a just verdict can be reached. From day one, the judge and all attorneys knew the jury selection would be challenging because so many prospective jurors either know the defendants or the victim, or they've read about the case and watched the video showing Ahmaud Arbery, the victim, being shot and killed with a 12-gauge shotgun. Remember, the court is obligated by law to seat a fair and impartial jury. Gregory and Travis McMichael, who are father and son, are charged with murdering Ahmaud Arbery. They both claim the shooting was in self-defense. And William Bryan recorded the shooting with his cell phone, and prosecutors maintain he was a participant in the killing, and that's why he's also charged with murder. Frank Hogue is representing Gregory McMichael. We spoke to Hogue recently about the slow jury selection process and the long hours they're spending inside the courtroom.
Yeah, we've been going till sometimes as late as 8:30 at night. Those are long days. That's 12 hours in court, and doing that day after day is pretty taxing.
64 qualified prospective jurors have to be chosen before the next phase of jury selection can begin. Once the court reaches that 64 number, they will then cut it down to 16 through another round of vetting and questioning of prospective jurors. The ultimate goal is to seat 12 jurors and 4 alternates. Initially, the judge had set aside 2 weeks for jury selection, but at the pace the court is moving right now, the process will easily go into a 3rd week. In Brunswick, Georgia, I'm Joy Clark for Start Your Day.
Okay, hold it right there. Okay, we're coming up on a break. We'll continue this on the other side of the break, and we'll talk about one of the defense attorneys is expressing concern because of a lack of white males on the jury. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by, everybody. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. How's everybody doing? Who still needs to register for the class I teach on Sundays, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa? Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 10-week online course, and we deal with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Stand by. Stand by. Stand by.
Nine ten, the Superstation, the oldest radio station in town since 1922.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, November 1st, 2021. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, we were doing an update in the trial of the three white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. This piece here from Yahoo News, originally from the Associated Press: potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery's slaying. This is from Saturday, October 31st, 2021. Okay, so we were talking about a change of venue if defense attorneys conclude that the jury pool is shaping up to be biased against them. Okay. If the defense attorneys conclude that the jury pool is shaping up to be biased against them, they could ask the judge to halt jury selection and move the trial. Now, just because they ask for a change of venue doesn't mean they're going to get a change of venue. Otherwise, before a final jury is seated, lawyers on both sides will have a limited number of strikes that let them cut potential jurors they may feel are unfavorable. Any of the defendants are convicted. If any of the defendants are convicted, it's possible that the judge's reluctance to dismiss jurors who expressed strong opinions could be used as grounds for an appeal. Could be used as grounds for an appeal, said Jeffrey Abramson, a law professor at the University of Texas and author of the 1994 book We the Jury. Attorney Abramson said, if it could come back to bite you. It could come back to bite you. Professor Abramson said, though he added that the judge was, quote, doing the best job he can so far in a tremendously difficult and delicate situation. And that's what a lot of people are saying. This particular judge is doing, a pretty good job. It's a tough case to preside over. And it's jury selection is moving much slower than many people had anticipated and wanted. But I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I'd rather for them to take. Originally, they thought jury selection was going to take 2 weeks. We're now at the beginning of the third week. But I'd rather for them to take an additional week or 2 additional weeks than get the wrong people on the jury and they're biased and these guys get off and are not found guilty based upon not what was on social media, but based upon the evidence presented in the trial. Now, we're going to go to clip 2 in just a second, Shakita. One potential juror number 475. Juror number 475 told attorneys, it seemed like, quote, it seemed like when it rains, it pours over the last year. When it rains, it pours over the last year. Referring to the national outcry over racial injustice. Juror number 475 is a male. He said he felt the deaths of Black people such as Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd had, quote, all been lumped together, end quote, all been lumped together. He said, I think it's made our town look negative for sure. And he blamed the defendants for singling out, quote, a Black guy in a white neighborhood. He blamed the defendants, the 3 defendants, for singling out, quote, a Black guy in a white neighborhood. Now, the court has not provided the race of individual jury pool members, and they have not been asked about their backgrounds in open court. Few potential jurors have stated their race while being questioned. those the judge has found qualified to serve on the jury all said they could keep an open mind if they are among the 12 jurors and 4 alternates seated on the panel. Okay. Those the judge has found qualified to serve on the jury all said they could keep an open mind if they are among the 12 jurors and 4 alternates seated on the panel. Now, others have been dismissed after the judge concluded that they held fixed opinions about the case. One woman who was struck from jury service is identified as juror number 164. She told attorneys that Ahmaud Arbery was chased and shot and was, quote, almost like a lynching. She told attorneys that the way Ahmaud Arbery was chased and shot was, quote, almost like a lynching, end quote. So she was struck from jury pool. Another juror who was dismissed, juror number 485, said the one thing they were sure of that he was black and he was running, end quote. That's true too, because that's true. That appears to be true. Okay, I wasn't there, but that appears to be true. All that I've studied about this case, the one thing they were sure of is that he was black and he was running. Okay, the juror number 485 was struck from the jury pool as well. Okay, all right now. Okay, so read this piece here from Yahoo News. The potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery slaying. Potential jurors see racism behind Ahmaud Arbery slaying. Now, I want to go to this next clip here because I was going to try to do this on Friday, but we didn't get a chance to get to it. This is from the Black News Channel from Friday. This is my girl Candace Kelly, attorney Candace Kelly, who does legal analysis for the Black News Channel, which sometimes co-panelists on Roland Martin Unfiltered. She was speaking with Mike Hill on Start Your Day about the trial, and they talked about attendance and social media impacting jury selection for this trial. Let's go to clip 2, Shakita.
The wait continues. Our justice correspondent, Candace Kelly, is here with us to break this all down. Let's start off with what Dre is talking about and just the ones who have been selected so far to wait to see if they go on to the next round. Just the wait alone, just the slow process. The defense attorneys, the prosecutors probably concerned about how this is going to affect the jurors. In your opinion, how will it affect these potential jurors?
Well, Mike, first of all, good morning. This really is just a part of the process, but jury fatigue comes along with this process. And you have all these people who are waiting for that next stage. They're just sitting there, no phones, right? We also have the people who are waiting to be questioned. They're 12-hour days, as we just heard Dre Clark report about. And it's also a question of just fatigue by the attorneys, too, or who have to go through all of these jurors, figure out a new level of expectation, because so many of them know Arbery himself, his family, so many know the McMichaels, and just trying to figure out, you know what, this is a different threshold that has to be met. Just because you know somebody who's on the defense or on the plaintiff's side, it doesn't really count you out. So all of that is just making everybody very fatigued. We're going probably into the third week. We're now at just 47 people. Yeah. As you know, have to reach number 64. So a lot more to go, mate.
A lot more to go, and it started off, I believe, with 1,000 potential jurors that were going to come in, but there are reports are coming out that half of them aren't even showing up for this jury selection process. How does that impede both sides?
Listen, it really impedes both sides, because even with 1,000, we are not at our 64 people yet. And what's questioned, what a lot of people are saying, and what's the question now is the people and their safety. Some people just don't want the exposure. Some people do not want to go through the process. Some people, they have jobs, they have daycare situations, and some people just don't want to come and serve. So what is on the mind of a lot of people, and this was a question, is how safe am I going to be in all this? We see the protesters outside, but certainly there's not a lot of commotion in terms of anybody being in danger, but they're just concerned overall about what they hear in the community and how they feel. So a lot of people not showing up, you're right, a big deal. It's going to take a little longer to get through because of that.
All right.
And we got to know that the jurors reportedly, from Drake Clarkson reporting, saying that they're coming in through the back door. They're not even seeing these protesters or the demonstrators that are out there. All right, so exactly. I heard the judge said that some of the questions, the jurors coming off a little uncomfortable, a little aggressive. Explain that for us.
Well, listen, I think that these attorneys, as we said, they're fatigued. They're tired of going through the process of trying to figure out what is on these jurors' minds. Listen, some of these jurors were talking about 5 minutes. Some, we're talking about 50 minutes in terms of just the grouping. How quickly do we go through this? They're just tired. They want this to kind of wrap up so that they can move on to the next phase. They're also just concerned about, obviously, what's going on outside. As you said, the jurors don't even see that. They come in the back way. But they're just tired overall about all of these outside things, because when you have these motions and you keep on questioning protesters outside or what's going on the outside, when people say it doesn't really have anything to do with the inside, you waste time where you should have been questioning jurors. So all of that is just making people tired of the process, attorneys included, and especially the judge who's saying, come on, judges like to keep on schedule. He's off schedule now, but probably by next week, we will be at our 64.
Yeah, we might not even have court today because of a personal issue with him. All right, so we're already talking about maybe a possible appeal by one of the defendants, and they want to put this on record with the judge just in case.
Yes, the attorneys for the defendants, they're saying, listen, judge, we know that you are making a lot of quick rulings. And what happens on appeal is that they go back to the record. They look at the record and they see the rulings that the judge made. Well, the judge is making a lot of rulings that are very, very quick. The defense does not like that. They want the judge to really go into explain detailed information on record about why he decided one way or the other, so that they can really kind of poke holes on it on appeal. So it's interesting, Mike, that they're thinking about appeal already. We haven't even begun the process of the trial itself. I would imagine that they have some concern already about how this is going so far. But of course, any attorney worth their salt is going to be thinking about an appeal. But they are really thinking about it. They're saying, judge, whatever your reasoning is, please put it on record. Please explain yourself so that we can use that in an appeal. They are already thinking ahead.
Soaring prices.
Okay, pause it right there. Okay. All right. Okay, we're coming up on a break here. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about one of the defense attorneys brought up the lack of noticeable absence of white males on the jury today. Very, very strange. Listen to the African History Network show. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Also, we'll talk about the Mississippi State Constitution of November 1st, 1890. Stand by. Okay, stand by, everybody. Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by.
Nine ten, the Superstation, Detroit's only African American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation and Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Monday, November 1st, 2021. Okay, very quickly here, I want to go to this next story. So there's an article that you can check out from news4jax.com in Georgia, in the Brunswick area in Georgia. This piece came out today. Jury selection continues. Selection continues in trial for 3 men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. And they talk about here for Monday, November 1st, you have 55 potential jurors. You have 55 potential jurors qualified over the last 2 weeks. The pool shrank to 54 on Monday, November 1st, after one potential juror was lost due to a conflict. Not sure what the conflict was, but so we're at 54 potentials. Okay, I want to go quickly here to this from Black News Channel. Dre Clark is talking about an objection by one of the defense attorneys today dealing with a noticeable absence of white males. Let's go to clip 3, Shakita.
Morning. Yeah, you're making reference to a motion that was put forth by one of the defense attorneys, Kevin Goff. And Kevin Goff is really like a motion machine. He's constantly submitting motions for the judge. Well, in this most recent one, he says he's concerned about the lack of white males over the age of 40 without a college degree, or commonly called Bubba's or Joe's six-pack. He says there is a noticeable absence of that demographic in the jury selection process, and he's concerned that that may work against the defendants. Again, the judge has asked him to submit a motion, and then he will make a decision on as to whether or not he believes that Kevin Goff has a valid point. Shannon.
And so, you know, his lawyer for William Roddy Bryan says that his client is not going to be facing a jury of his peers. But isn't that what this whole process has been about? Finding the appropriate amount of people to be in this pool that represents both sides of this case? What is he looking for?
Yeah, and it's unusual in that you have not one defendant, but you have 3 defendants. And they're trying to find the best qualified jurors that can be really fair and impartial and render a just decision. Obviously, Mr. Goff feels as if this particular demographic is very important. None of the other defense attorneys has raised this point. Only Mr. Goff believes it's an issue here. So it's anyone's guess as to what the perfect juror looks like in Kevin Goff's mind. But certainly the challenge for the court has been to find 12 jurors and 4 alternates that they believe can be fair and impartial, because everyone that was summoned to appear for jury duty lives right here in Glenn County, where Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed in February of 2020. Certainly everyone has heard about the case, and many people have seen the video. And so that does present a challenge in trying to find a fair and impartial jury. But hey, listen, We're at 55 so far. They need to get to 64 qualified jurors before they can move into the next phase. And so they are slowly but surely getting to that 64 number, but we're now in week 3.
Well, you know, Dre, the lawyer also talked about men who are like his client as a, quote, protected class. Can you explain that?
You know, I don't know what that means, a protected class. Again, these attorneys have made motion after motion after motion, and some of it makes sense, and then there are other cases that just doesn't seem to make sense at all. But I think what they're trying to do is at least lay the groundwork, early groundwork, for the possibility of a mistrial because the jury poll is tainted or it doesn't reflect a jury of his peers, he being William Bryan or Gregory and Travis McMichael. They're really trying to, some legal experts believe, lay the groundwork for a mistrial to be declared or for an appeal if, in fact, there is a conviction. So they're really playing the long game. But the judge is very strict in that he doesn't discourage them from submitting motions. He says, if that's how you feel, submit the motion, and I will render a decision. Remember, last week they wanted all of the black men and women who were gathering here on the lawn behind me in support of the Arbery family kicked off of the courthouse grounds. The judge said no. They have a free speech right. They have a legal right to be there. So I don't know this protected class. I don't know what that means, but the jury process is moving forward.
Well, Dre, you mentioned that 55 people have been selected to move on to the second phase of questioning. So do we know anything about this group that has been selected so far?
No, we know very little. I mean, other than white men, white women, black men, black women, the judge is very strict. He does not want to have really anything in the way of identity or any type of identifiers for those jurors who have been selected, because this is a case that has garnered massive media attention. And this is the kind of town where everybody knows everybody in one way or the other. So the judge is really strict, and also telling members of the media, do not go on TV, do not print in your newspapers or magazines anything that might identify these potential jurors, because if you do, it's only going to complicate your job in trying to cover this trial. So he's made it very clear that he wants their identities to be protected. So we have very general information about who these potential qualified jurors are.
All right, Dre Clark, we know you are on the case and you'll continue to follow it and give us updates on it. So thank you so much for your coverage.
Okay, so that is from Black News Channel, Monday, November 1st, 2021's jury selection for Ahmaud Arbery, noticeable absence of white males. All right, those watching on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, keep watching. We're going to keep broadcasting for a few more minutes and talk about November 1st, 1890, the Mississippi State Constitution was adopted, and it instituted poll taxes and an arbitrary literacy test for voting, sections designed to disenfranchise newly enfranchised African Americans and some poor white people. Okay, and some poor white people. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, if you want to support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. Remember, right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Okay, stand by. Stand by, everybody. All right. We're going to keep going for a few more minutes. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. When you go to it, it says Michael. It shows my picture there. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. That's not us. So this helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. We're here 6 days a week. And be sure to follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and turn on live notifications when so you know when we go live. If you'd like this type of information, give us a thumbs up or give us a heart on the broadcast also. Okay, so I want to go to this next topic. And you've heard me talk about it a number of times. The Mississippi state constitution, which was adopted November 1st, 1890. The new state constitution adopted November 1st, 1890. And the plan that they implemented was called the Mississippi Plan, the Mississippi Plan. And it's going to be adopted by other southern states to disenfranchise African Americans. Zen Education Project has a piece on this. We posted this on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, today. On November 1st, 1890, Mississippi adopted a new constitution with a poll tax, and arbitrary literacy test for voting. With a poll tax and arbitrary literacy test for voting, sections designed to disenfranchise newly franchised African Americans and some poor whites. Now, the new Constitution was a nail in the coffin for Mississippi Reconstruction, the Reconstruction period 1865 to 1877. So this is after Reconstruction ends. The new Constitution was a nail in the coffin for Mississippi Reconstruction and a win for voter suppression and a win for the white supremacists who were trying to suppress the African American vote. It brought to an end the period of democratic progress that followed the Civil War, when African Americans were the majority of eligible voters in Mississippi. When African Americans were the majority of eligible voters in Mississippi. Now, if you saw the documentary that we talked about a lot last week from MSNBC, it aired Sunday, October 24th, 2021, Civil War, The Root of Our Division, on MSNBC. Is also streaming on Peacock, their streaming service, NBC streaming service. And they re-aired the documentary on Friday, October 29th, 10 p.m. on MSNBC. They talk about the Reconstruction era. They talk about the rewriting the state constitutions. Also, my friend Dr. Greg Carr is in a documentary, who's the chair of the Afro-American Studies Department at Howard University. He's a panelist on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Thursdays. I'm a panelist on Fridays. So, and this is something that this is something I teach about in our Saturday class, dealing with from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. In 5 Myths About Reconstruction, the article 5 Myths About Reconstruction by James Loewen. James Loewen was a historian. He just passed away a few months ago. He was a historian, and one of the books he wrote is called Lies My Teacher Told Me. Lies My Teacher Told Me by James Loewen. Everything Your American History Textbook Got Wrong. Everything Your American History Textbook Got Wrong. So he has this article, 5 Myths About Reconstruction. Okay. And in this piece here, let's see, I think Washington Post picked this up also. But anyway, let me go back to this here. In 5 Myths About Reconstruction, James Loewen explains that Mississippi set a precedent for the rest of the South. Mississippi set a precedent for the rest of the South. This was particularly true after the unanimous Supreme Court vote on April 25th, 1898, upholding Mississippi's claim that their constitution was not discriminatory in the Supreme Court case Williams versus Mississippi. And we talk about Williams versus Mississippi in my class because this, actually towards the end of Reconstruction and after Reconstruction ends, the U.S. Supreme Court is ruling on cases, and it's turning back Reconstruction and it's turning back rights of African Americans. So Williams versus Mississippi rules that the Mississippi State Constitution is not discriminatory and does not interfere with the 15th Amendment. It does not impede the 15th Amendment and impede voting rights for African Americans. Quote, every Southern state instituted literacy tests and poll taxes to effectively remove African Americans from the citizenship they were supposed to have been guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. End quote. This can be seen in the state constitutions with similar voter suppression statutes adopted. This can be seen in the state constitutions with similar voter suppression statutes adopted by South Carolina in 1895, Louisiana in 1898, North Carolina in 1900, Alabama in 1901, Virginia in 1901, Georgia in 1908, Oklahoma in 1910. These states are rewriting their state constitutions, instituting poll taxes, literacy tests, in some cases, property ownership requirements to be able to vote, to target African Americans and suppress the African American vote. Okay. Georgia, 1908, Oklahoma, 1910, and more. This here's a picture of the session of the Mississippi Legislature, 1890, courtesy of the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. And this is by Isaiah T. Montgomery, who was African American, and from my research on this, he was the only African American in the state legislature and who voted in the state at the state convention. And he voted along with the white supremacists to impose the poll taxes and literacy tests. He was the founder of Bayou, Mississippi. He was a wealthy African American man. I don't know if he's related to Senator Tim Scott, Black Republican from South Carolina, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were related. Okay, so read this here from Zen Education Project, November 1st, 1890, Mississippi Constitution. And then also there's a good article from the Washington Post that deals with this. And this was called the Mississippi Plan. The Mississippi Plan. The Mississippi Plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890, quote, we came here to exclude the Negro. We came here to exclude the Negro. Now, this is what's taking place in state legislatures that Republicans dominate, and they're passing voter restriction bills like Texas and Georgia. This is what's taking place right now, but they're also targeting African Americans and Latinos, Asian Americans, things like this, to suppress the non-white vote. The convention's president, Solomon Saladin Calhoun, a white county judge, put the voting issue bluntly. He said, let's tell the truth if it bursts to the bottom. Let's tell the truth if it bursts the bottom of the universe. If it bursts the bottom of the universe. Okay, he said, we came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. We came here to exclude the Negro. Nothing short of this will answer. So delegates eventually adopted a literacy test and a poll tax geared to suppress the black vote in a state with a black majority, Mississippi. In a state with a black majority, the Mississippi Plan became the model throughout the South, part of a raft of racially oppressive Jim Crow laws that ended Reconstruction. Okay, read the rest of this. Now, Mississippi's 1890 convention sought to find a way around the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which gave African Americans the right to vote. It guaranteed the right to vote for African American men in 1890. Women would not get the right to vote until 1920, the 19th Amendment. And that African American women in the North largely could vote, but in the South, you're dealing with Jim Crow laws. Now, in 1920, that's 5 years into the Great Migration in 1920, but still the majority in 1900, 90% of African Americans lived in the South as a legacy of slavery. But 1920, African Americans migrated up north, and that first decade of the Great Migration, you're going to have about 1 million migrating up north, but still the majority of African Americans still lived in the South. Still over 50% still lived in the South. Close by 1920, it's close to about 80% still lived in the South. Just 2 decades earlier, prior to 1890, just 2 decades earlier, the Mississippi State Legislature had made history by electing Hiram Rhodes Revels to the U.S. Senate. Hiram Rhodes Revels was the first African-American member to serve in either house of the U.S. Congress, and he was a senator. Now, back at this time, 1890, voters are not voting for U.S. senators. People did not start voting for U.S. senators until about 1913, 1914. For the first 124 years that the U.S. Senate existed, it was members of the state legislature that appointed U.S. senators to the U.S. Senate. Hiram Rhodes Revels was the first African-American member to serve in either house of Congress, but that moment of racial progress quickly vanished. This is Hiram Rhodes Revels. After Rutherford B. Hayes removed all federal troops from southern states in 1877, which is the Compromise of 1877. We just talked about that this past Saturday in class. The Compromise of 1877, which ended Reconstruction, which was the result of the 1876 presidential election between Rutherford B. Hayes, the Republican, and Samuel J. Tilden, the Democrat. And neither one had enough electoral college votes. Neither one had the 185 electoral college votes needed to become president-elect. Samuel J. Tilden was at 184. And there was a dispute between South Carolina, Florida, the states, and Louisiana, I think it was, the votes in those 3 states, those 3 southern states. White Democrats who had supported slavery and the Confederacy began regaining control of the states from black and white Republicans, because you had African-American and white Republicans controlling these state legislatures in the South during Reconstruction. Nearly all of the Mississippi Convention's 134 delegates were white Democrats, with 1 African-American. A white Republican named Marsh Cook had campaigned for a seat, vowing to protect the rights of black voters. A few weeks before the convention, Marsh Cook's body, his bullet-riddled body, was found on a rural road, because they were killing they were killing white Republicans also throughout the South. They were attacking not just African Americans and killing African Americans, even African American elected officials were being killed, but also white Republicans who were allies of African Americans were being killed as well, and some white Republicans who were elected officials being attacked, beat up, killed, etc. The Jackson Clarion Ledger newspaper lamented the murder, but added, quote, "Those who did it felt they were doing their country a service in removing a man who had become so offensive." Those who did it felt they were doing their country a service in removing a man who had become so offensive, because he was going to protect the rights of African Americans. At the convention, one delegate candidly summarized the dilemma of white Democrats. This is before the party realignment that begins with the Lily White movement in 1928 and concludes in the mid to late 1960s. Quote, it is no secret that there has not been a full vote and a fair count in Mississippi since 1875. It is no secret that there has not been a full vote and a fair count in Mississippi since 1875. That in plain words, we have been stuffing ballot boxes, committing perjury, carrying the elections by fraud and violence. Carrying the elections by fraud and violence. Sounds like Republicans today, some Republicans today. He suggested a way to weed out unqualified voters, proposing to require that a voter, quote, must read and write the English language, or he is disbarred from the privilege of voting. Okay. He suggested that they weed out unqualified voters by proposing to require that a voter, quote, must read and write the English language, or he is disbarred from the privilege of voting, end quote. Most of the state's African Americans were former slaves. State of Mississippi were former slaves who have been denied an education. All right. Men who can't read, quote, are not of character to entrust the ballot. The Clarion Ledger there in Mississippi agreed, the newspaper. Quote, a plan of this kind would disenfranchise few white people, denying the ballot only to the idle and thriftless class, end quote. All right, so read the rest of this here. This is from the Washington Post. The Mississippi plan to keep blacks from voting in 1890. Quote, we came here to exclude the Negro, end quote. And that's exactly what they did. So now history is repeating itself. We have a chance to make sure that it doesn't. Okay, so if you like this type of information, you can register for a 10-week online course that I teach on Saturdays. From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968, where we get deep into a lot of this information. Each class, we go through and analyze approximately a 10-year period of history, and we deal with events leading up to the Civil War taking place as well, starting with the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, and understand what happened to us after slavery ended. Look at the laws and policies that were put in place to put us in the predicament that we're in today, but also look at our successes as well. And so we can understand where we need to go from here. We teach this class normally Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Class is on sale right now, $70, regularly $130. As soon as you register, you can watch the class we just did this past Saturday. So we just posted the link here. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.
On Purpose Television Network. Yes, Black on Purpose Television Network. All black, all positive, all the time. The largest black-owned streaming television network in the world, bringing our people together worldwide, controlling our messages, our story, our way. Black TV the way it should be. Black music, Black history, and more. 30-plus channels, thousands of shows. Black on Purpose Television Network. Subscribe now.
Gain knowledge in minutes from insightful summaries of progressive and socially conscious books. Blacklisted gives you access to curated content that'll satisfy your curiosity to learn and understand different perspectives. Empower yourself through inspirational and actionable ideas. It's easy to read or listen to on the go. Blacklisted. Empower yourself. Start your free trial today